been so long since last we met.
Lie down, forever lie down. Or have you any money to bet? Lie down, forever lie down. There goes old Georgetown, straight for a touchdown. See how they gain ground. Lie down, forever lie down. Lie down, lie down, forever lie down.
Hello and welcome to 1789 Seconds, sponsored by the Georgetown University Alumni Association. It's great to see all of you today. Thanks for joining us. So through this series, we spend about 1,789 seconds, which is just about 30 minutes, with cool alumni as they share their amazing stories. I'm Julia Farr from the college class of 1988, and I'm a parent of 3 Hoyas from the class of 19, 21, and 24. And I'm also the executive director of the Georgetown University Alumni Association. I'm here today with the incredibly talented BRELAND, talk about cool, a fellow Hoya from McDonough School of Business from 2017. BRELAND is a singer, songwriter, and a producer who's been making his mark on the country music industry over the past couple of years. BRELAND, it hasn't really been that long since last we met. We were thrilled to see you last year in Nashville at our John Carroll weekend, and it's just really wonderful to be with you again today. Welcome back.
What's going on?
Good to see you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh,
Can
good.
you hear
There
me?
you are. All right, we'll try and make this work.
I'm trying my best.
Okay, thanks. You've had an incredibly busy year. You had your first #1, Beers on Me, Dierks Bentley and Hardy releasing your debut album, Cross Country, just this past September. You had your first headline tour in the past couple months. I know you've had your takeaway first hit, Don't Touch My Truck, that just has propelled you to this complete stardom. How have the last couple months been for you?
Yeah, it's been a really busy year. It's been blessed. I'm really grateful for a lot of the opportunities that we've had. It was great to be able to put out my debut album a couple months ago, Cross Country. I'd say that was definitely one of the big highlights of my year. As well as last night, I sang on the season finale of The Voice out here in Los Angeles, which was a lot of fun. We've gotten a chance to travel internationally. We've played shows in Australia, all over the UK, Canada, with plans in the new year to do even more. And it's been a busy year. It's been a busy few months, and I'm definitely looking forward to continuing that growth in the new year.
That's so exciting. Congratulations on all of it. I'm going to take you back now. Before we go ahead, we're going to go back to your childhood. I hear you're from a very musical family and you've been singing your entire life. Tell me a little about your growing up years.
Yeah, so my dad is actually a Georgetown law alum, but
Awesome.
he went to Howard undergrad and was in the Howard Gospel Choir, and my mom was also in the Howard Gospel Choir. They met singing, in the choir, and ended up falling in love, starting a family. Naturally, they wanted to make sure that we also could sing. I feel like the genetics probably played some part in that, but growing up in a house like that does wonders as well. Just learning how to harmonize, constantly being exposed to high level musicality, and how to blend your voice with other voices. You learn a lot. It's very unselfish when you grow up in a choral household, because we sing a lot of stuff where there are no leads. We all are singing our own part, and it comes together beautifully. It sounded like the Georgetown chimes that you had on that intro there. And I was obviously a member of the Phantoms, so it's transferable skills. And I feel like growing up in a house where music was key, but also where education was prioritized as well, kind of led me perfectly down the path that I ended up taking.
I saw an Instagram of you singing with your family. You just weren't singing in the church. You were singing in the kitchen. You were singing all over the house together.
Yeah, it's it's never a dull moment in the BRELAND household. And even more now, I feel like that I come back and I have my own songs to share. But, it's been great. My family's incredibly supportive of what I'm doing, and I always credit them with helping me get started in that way.
And then you came to Georgetown. So you started at Georgetown. but I read that you first turned down NYU's Clive Davis Institute for Recorded Music. What was your decision making there about no to something that you thought you were on the path for and yes to Georgetown University, which we are absolutely thrilled about, by the way?
Yeah, it was a gamble that my 17-year-old self took, and I think it was the correct move. I just felt like within the music industry, there's really no educational barriers to entry. Getting a music education doesn't make you particularly more likely to succeed in music, but I did feel like having a business degree from Georgetown would help me succeed in life. And so I was like, I'm going to go to Georgetown. I'm going to study business and take away, hopefully all of these different skills and abilities. You learn a lot as a Georgetown student in the classroom, but I think you also learn a lot socially as a member of the community. That felt like a real asset to me, knowing that I could continue to create music on my own and grow as a musician independently of what I was studying. And I felt like that was a better move than NYU. And obviously there's no regrets on my end.
That's fantastic. I saw you wrote something about, and you were talking about others who have made enterprises for themselves, like Jay-Z and Elon Musk. You said they took their entry point and they turned it into an enterprise. And that was sort of what you had in your mind. Was that something that came to you later, or do you think you were thinking about that when you came to Georgetown?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about it in a kind of smaller, more narrow scope when I first came to Georgetown, and then being at Georgetown and seeing, just the excellence of so many students on campus that I could tell were already en route to going on to accomplish great things. It definitely fueled my fire a little bit more in terms of being able to think bigger. I came into Georgetown thinking that I was just going to write songs for other people, and spent most of my career on campus writing songs to pitch to people. And then by the time I graduated and had a couple years out of school to reflect on my experience and talking to some of my other peers and fellow Georgetown alums and seeing what they were doing, I was like, man, I got to think a little bigger. I feel like I wanted to be an artist as a kid. Let me try to get back to that and see if I can put some of these songs out myself while also continuing to write songs for wherever they might end up. And I think when you're in a community like Georgetown, you're exposed to so many people that perform at a high level across a million different areas. There are people who go on to become presidents and Supreme Court justices and, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and diplomats and, on the cutting edge of medicine and Wall Street finance. And, I felt like we needed a few more musicians and artists in that group. And obviously we've had a couple, but of the younger crowd of Georgetown alums, I was like, I would love to be able to hold it down in that regard.
And you were writing songs when you were here. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. I would say just don't pull up the transcripts. I may have skipped a couple classes to be able to do it. But, during my sophomore year at Georgetown, I was an RA in Village C West, and I bought myself some equipment and challenged myself to write and record a song every day over the course of my sophomore year. And when you're first starting to write songs, one, most of them suck, and two, you don't have a real method or process or strategy for making songs efficiently and effectively. So I could theoretically write a song in an hour, but it could also take me 8 to 10 hours because I didn't have a process for it. And I think over the course of that year, I learned a lot, but it obviously wasn't enough because I hadn't, nothing had really happened. And so I came back junior year and senior year and was like, I'm actually going to do 2 songs a day. And that was obviously a major undertaking, but literally while at Georgetown, I wrote easily 1,500 songs if I had to guess, and turning whatever spaces I could on campus, whether it was my dorm room or, the little breakout practice rooms in the under New South, the Healy building. I think I was just trying to use all the resources that I had at my disposal. And there were a couple, little recording studios that they had in at Lau that I used pretty often as well. I took a recording arts class there, learning how to use my equipment. But I put in an incredible amount of hours, and whether it was a full 10,000 over the course of my career at Georgetown, I'm not sure. But between that and what I was doing right after graduation, I think I accredit a lot of my success currently to the hours that I was putting in, while I was a student.
That's a pretty high level of productivity, that many number of songs, that period of time. You were also a member of the Phantoms, an acapella group here. Tell me about your experience with the Phantoms, why you want to be a part of it, and how you want to start singing.
Yeah. I think anytime you come into a school and you have certain things you like to do, you tap in with whatever organizations are already in existence, and the Phantoms are Georgetown's oldest co-ed group. I had sung some a cappella in high school, and obviously growing up in the household that I did, it made sense for me to want to continue that. I actually got into a few of the different groups on campus, but I ended up choosing the Phantoms. And some of my best friends to this day came from that experience. All my closest friends from Georgetown were in the Phantoms with me. It was as close of a fraternity sorority experience as I could have, at a school like Georgetown that doesn't necessarily recognize Greek life formally. It was great. I mean, those are my family with a PH still. I played a show in New York a couple of weeks ago, and I had 6 members of the Phantoms who are all in the New York metropolitan area come through the show. I got to hang out with them afterward. I mean, those are my people, and being there and having the opportunity to perform with the group at so many high level events and functions. I mean, when you're in DC, we had the opportunity to sing at the White House, 3 years in a row, sing for dignitaries and secretaries of state and congressmen, men and women, and so many high profile events that we sang at, that I had the opportunity to solo within the group. I feel like that definitely helped give me some confidence, but more importantly, it helped me form some lifelong friendships and relationships. And I think over time you may forget some of the specific things that you learned in the classroom, but you never forget those experiences and the people that you encountered along the way. So the Phantoms was such a big and formative part of my Georgetown experience.
Did you have any favorite song or solo?
I sang "Forget You" by CeeLo Green. That was one of the first solos that I got. I sang that a bunch. We hosted DCAF every year, the DC Acapella Festival at Gaston Hall.
Yep.
I was one of the only people who got to solo all 4 years of my Georgetown career. So I definitely got some experience while I was there. It was a good time.
That's fantastic. Okay, now I'm going to move you ahead. We've left Georgetown University. You're now in Atlanta. 2017, you graduated. You went to Atlanta. What was your plan going to Atlanta? I know you were looking to be a performer at the time, and just tell me about you also had a corporate position. What was life like then for you?
Yeah, I kind of moved there not knowing a whole lot. I spent most of my junior and senior years at Georgetown kind of reaching out to different people in the music industry, because as a songwriter and as an artist, there aren't really, you don't apply, there's no interview process. You either develop connections or you don't. And so it's a lot different than, a lot of the other career paths that people tend to take coming out of Georgetown, where, you might have a career day and you go, recruitment process and get internships. It just doesn't work that way with my path. So I spent a lot of my time in the second half of my career at Georgetown reaching out to a lot of those people and seeing if I could form relationships with people who could help me and serve as mentors. And within the R&B hip hop world, Atlanta is kind of the predominant city for the creation of that music. And I met a few different producers and writers down in Atlanta, and spent my summer before senior year at Georgetown down there working with a bunch of different people. So it felt like the best location for me to move. Also, my grandparents are down there. I have family in the area. So I was like, okay, I'll move to Atlanta. I literally just took the first job that I, got the job for, which I probably don't recommend. I think you should get a job that's really going to serve you in any situation where you need to get a 9 to 5. But I kind of just jumped at whatever the first opportunity was. I was doing business to business tech sales, building Excel sheets, cold call, cold email, try to build a book of business.
All good skills.
It just wasn't for me. I think some people really enjoy it, but I was spending my nights going to the studio. So I would go to work from 8:30 to 6 p.m. And then I would go to the studio from 6:30 to 3 or 4 a.m., get home around 4:30 and wake up again at 7 the next day to continue. And I did that every day for a little over a year after graduating from Georgetown. And it was humbling because a lot of my peers at Georgetown were already succeeding on Wall Street or becoming CPAs or, in law school and making these advancements. And I felt like I was kind of in a rut, but ultimately everyone's timing is their own. And you can't compare what you're doing with someone else who's doing something entirely differently. So, it was a tough year. I struggled a bit and really ended up deciding I didn't want to work that job anymore. And I kind of made that decision before I had the funds to make that decision. But I stepped out on faith, and literally the week that I quit that job, I got my first TV placement for a song that I wrote. And so I was like, okay, cool. This is my first real music paycheck. It came at the perfect time and kind of endowed me with the confidence that I needed to feel like I could pursue it full time. Whether or not it was always financially the best decision. Because what people don't realize is within music, as a songwriter, you only get paid for songs based on the performance of that song. So, you could have an artist put a song out, but if it's just an album cut and it doesn't stream well and it doesn't go to radio and it doesn't, get synced into a bunch of different commercials and things like that, you don't really see any money from that. And even, most of the songs that you write, if I write 100 songs, other than being an artist myself who can determine which of my songs I want to put out, but at just pitching songs, if I write 100 songs, I'm lucky if 5 of those songs end up getting recorded by another artist. And that's even me now as a more established creative with relationships with these people. But starting out, I would write 1,000 songs and none of them would end up anywhere. So you're it's an uphill battle trying to build those relationships with artists and get your name out there and get your work out there in a way that people can latch onto it and want to record it and then put it out. So all of that kind of led me to a point where I thought, hey, let me start putting some of this music out myself, because I have a lot of songs that I believe in and I haven't really had the success that I was hoping for as far as pitching songs around. I'm like, if I can put these songs out myself and control, how they're going out into the world and when they're going out into the world, it'll save me a few steps. And I was really fortunate that the first song that I wrote ended up going viral and, putting me on this crazy path that I've been on.
You got to my next question. I was going to ask you about what led you to record Don't Touch My Truck or My Truck, which is a phenomenal song. And how you got to that point that you're certified platinum. It really, you were on your trend, but skyrocketed you. Yeah.
I mean, that song, I didn't write it knowing that I was going to put it out. It was just another song that I was writing. I wanted to try to make something a little different. I've always been a fan of a lot of different styles of music and felt like if I was going to put music out, it would have to be reflective of how diverse my musical interests are. Whereas when you're writing songs for other people, you're specifically trying to write something with a person in mind. And usually most artists have a specific sound that you're going for. So as far as like crossing genres, I didn't have a ton of opportunities until a song like My Truck, which is why it was so appealing to me to put out. It's like, it's catchy. It's a little country. It's a little hip hop. It's got some R&B licks in the back. And so I just felt like, you know what, let me try putting this out. And I did. I got some support from social media telling me to do it, and then got some more support from social media as far as the song going viral on the early days of TikTok. And that really got the ball rolling with me as an artist. The song started to go viral. I got a bunch of different calls from record labels around the country and internationally who wanted to know if I was the artist behind the song and what else I had in my catalog. So very shortly thereafter, top of 2020, I signed a record deal with Atlantic Records, and I'm still with them now. I'm at their office here in LA as we speak. But that deal was really helpful. One, it put some money in my pocket to be able to do what it is that I'm doing now, as well as gave me a budget to fund tours and music videos and put more music out. And so I spent kind of the next couple years really trying to figure that out. And I had to spend a lot of that time figuring it out in the middle of a pandemic and a lockdown. Because when you sign a record deal at the top of 2020 with a viral song and then the world shuts down, there's no playbook for it, and so we had to get creative. We had to pivot. And it really wasn't until I made the move to actually move to Nashville from Atlanta, where I had been the previous 3 years, where I started connecting with other artists like Sam Hunt and Keith Urban and Dierks Bentley and Nelly and all of the people that I've been able to collaborate with, between 2020 and 2021. And those collabs really helped cement me in the country music space as someone that people, could trust, and someone that, despite the sound not being very traditionally country, we were able to overcome some of those obstacles because I had the support of so many established artists, and it made my transition into Nashville a lot smoother.
How did that happen? So you have a number of collaborations since you hit, and these are not little names. These are huge names. You hit with My Truck, and then you've got Sam Hunt collaborating with you. How did that all come together? Did you just dial them up?
Yeah, I mean, Sam heard My Truck and thought it was catchy. He was a fan of it. Him and his band were playing it while they were on the road and getting ready for shows. And so we connected. His manager reached out to mine, and I was able to get him on the remix for that, which was a major co-sign on my first single, obviously. And then I did an interview with the New York Times and a writer named John Caramonica, that is. He wrote a really thoughtful piece about my early journey, and they published that, I think, in April or May of 2020. Mm-hmm. And Keith was reading the New York Times and came across that article and invited me to his house to make some music. So I ended up with 2 songs on his album. He hopped on my song, Throw It Back, which was recently certified gold, which is super exciting. Wow. And from there, I feel like that kind of opened the door for everyone else to be like, okay, he's got Sam and Keith, let's see what else. And, I think it helped that I had spent so much time writing for other artists, because when I ended up in these rooms with different artists trying to create songs, I had a process for, okay, let me listen to all the music that they've made, see what types of things they might want to say, what ranges they like to sing in, and literally, give them something that fits, while also being able to put my twist and spin on it, where a lot of these collabs were coming organically out of one single meeting with any of these different artists.
So then you got to the point of releasing Cross Country, which just happened this year. Sonically, there's a lot of diversity on the album. I know there are 14 different songs on it. Tell us about what Cross Country means to you. And there's a little bit of a shout out to your time at Georgetown University in the song too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I came up with the idea because people were like, what type of music do you make? What do you call it? And it wasn't firmly country, but it was, influenced by a lot of country music while also bringing in some of my gospel roots and my R&B roots and, some of the hip hop that I love. And I just started calling it Cross Country. I'm like, it's a cross between country and everything else. And so I got the idea to put together an album of songs that I felt like fit under that umbrella. And one of the songs on there, the title track, is a song called Cross Country, that kind of chronicles my story, the places that I've lived and how they've influenced me. And I shout out Georgetown, or at least DC. I said, in the DMV, getting my degree, it was fun and games. before the drinking age, you know, and it's fun whenever I play shows in DC or Virginia or Maryland and I sing that line. And, you know, if I have Georgetown alums or students in the audience, they always go nuts. But, you know, it was important to me to be able to put together an album that was sonically diverse, while also having a couple stories that were very true and personal to my experience. You know, and also giving people songs that I think are just a good time and fun and joyful. And I thought we did a good job of that on that project. And you know, had the opportunity to tour a lot of that over the course of this year, domestically and internationally, to, you know, show people what it looks like and sounds like to be creatively free within a genre that most people think of being a certain way.
So on your tours, how have you found your audiences are connecting with your music? What's your experience?
Yeah, I think they're connecting with it. I think they're connecting with it a bunch. You know, I see a lot of people singing along with album cuts and non-singles, which is always a good sign. But, you know, obviously they get excited for My Truck and Throw It Back and Praise the Lord and Beers on Me and all the songs that have gone gold and platinum, which makes sense, you know, as any artist would experience. But you know, this year was my first time really hitting the road in earnest. You know, coming out of the pandemic, it was hard in 2020 and 2021 to play shows, and this year we've played over 100 shows, and you know, I'm learning a lot about myself as a performer, as a person, how to take care of my voice, how to take care of myself physically, emotionally. But what I'm learning most is that there are people everywhere in the world who are connecting with the music, and they make my job really easy.
You seem mature beyond your years. Now I'm going to go off script for a second, which makes my team really nervous. But I read about your idea of joy and how joy is different than happiness, and the role that gratitude has played in your life. And since we're in the holiday season, can you tell me about how you're inspired by joy in your music and in your life?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I wanted my music to feel joyful, but in order to create that music, I have to be able to create it from a joyful place. And I think sometimes in this industry and just in this world, we deal with a lot of ups and downs and attribute a lot of our happiness to these things that don't last, like a promotion or, you know, making, I don't know, there's just all of these little things. And for me, it was like, oh, whether or not a song did well, or whether or not I got onto this tour, or whether or not I played a good show. And I was letting all of these external factors determine whether or not I was happy and whether or not I was grateful. And it was too mercurial for me. It was too up and down. I was like, I need more consistency. And so I just started focusing on gratitude and taking each day for what it has to offer, going into everything, whether I'm getting good news or bad news, and being grateful for it, and going to sleep grateful, waking up grateful, being very intentional about it. And the end result of that is more sustainable joy. And it's not to say that I don't still have down days, that I don't still have you know, weeks that are challenging and tough for me, but being able to have things that I am grateful for that don't change, like my health, my relationships in life, my family, you know, all of those things, the fact that I get to do what I love for a living, and breaking it down as small as you can get, being grateful for all of those things is what allows me to make this music in the way that I do, and the reason why it sounds the way that it does.
I love that. That's a very amazing and inspired way to live your life. Thank you for sharing that with us. We are now at the end of our 1789 seconds in our time together. We're so excited for what you've done already, BRELAND, and what we're going to be seeing from you, I know, in the very near future. So thank you for spending the time with us today. Hoya Sachs to everyone who joined us, and we look forward to being with you again sometime soon.
Yeah, Hoya Sachs, happy holidays to you guys, and I'll see you guys on the Hilltop very soon.
Awesome. That would be great. Thanks again, BRELAND.